Okay, Chaver Baruch Hashem, we're back at it. So, Yehושע, Parak Aleph, we're going to continue with Pasuk Tezayin. There's a couple more in Yanu that we need to discuss that weren't discussed in the last year. The Pasuk says, Via'nu is Yehושע Lamar. The answer Yehושע is saying the following: tשlחנו, נעשה. Everything that you command us to do, we'll do. תשלחנו, and any mission that you'll send us on, we're going to do. So it's kedai to mention that Rabbi Yankiv and Emes Liyakiv and Parshas V'Zayis discusses this pasuk, and it makes a very big nafkamina, not just in what we're going to be discussing here, but in the next couple of psukim, and will help us understand a lot of how different things, different leaders in Klal Yisrael operated. What's the role of a navi? What's the role of a melech? What is a shofet? It's just kedai to know. Once we're talking about Rabbi Yankiv, Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky didn't write Chuvas. We know there is an Emes Liyakiv on Shulchan Aruch, which I remember hearing not that long ago that they don't plan on reprinting it, even though recently they reprinted his Chedushim al Shas and his Chedushim al Torah. They put out a few volumes on Navi already. Rabbi Yaakov didn't write Chuvas, and also the way he would write, he would learn, let's say Chumash every day, Navi, Gemara, Mishnah, Gemara, whatever it was. And he would write it he wouldn't write it al Seder HaGemara, but he would write it in a notebook, what he learned on that day. It's just interesting. So when they were publishing it, there was a much bigger avodah to put the pieces together, because you could have, a vart on Chumash, a vart on Navi, a vart on some Gemara somewhere, and, that could take a lot of time to be misadered in the way that we have it. But anyways, in Parshas V'Zayis Habracha, Perek Lamed Pasuk Tes, the Pasuk says, Yehושע ben Nun molei ruach chachma. Yehושע ben Nun was full of this ruach chachma. Ki samach Moshe es yadav alav. Moshe was samech his hands on him. Vayishmu elav bnei Yisrael, and Klal Yisrael bnei Yisrael listened to him. Vayasu kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe, and they did like Hashem commanded Moshe, which would probably mean to accept Yehושע as the future manig of Klal Yisrael. It's like Rabbi Yankiv. Efshar shemikanu mukarish al Rambam sheposak v'hilchus yisrael Torah b'zeh haloshen. Says from here, this might be the makar. This is the source of the Rambam that writes in Hilchus Yisrael Torah Perek Yud Halacha Hey. Navi shehed lo navi acher. Now, how do you trust a navi, right? Who says this navi is reliable? If you learn through Nach, you'll see. You learn through the Gemaras, you're familiar with the concept of a navi sheker. So the question is, how is a navi reliable? So navi shehed lo navi acher. If one navi said edus about another navi, harehu becheskas navi, he's becheskas a navi. He can be trusted as a navi. Ve'ein za hasheni tzarech hakira. And the second navi, the one that's being testified about, doesn't need any drishas or hakiris. Sharei Moshe Rabbeinu heid li Yehושע, because Moshe Rabbeinu testified about Yehושע. V'haminu b'kol Yisrael koydem sheyasa ois. And the entirety of Klal Yisrael believed in him and trusted him before he was able to pull off any miracles, any ois. So it's very interesting, because we don't find in the psukim that Gans Klal Yisrael believed in Yehושע ben Nun. Even though the pasuk says in Yehושע, our pasuk, Via'nu es Yehושע lamar kol asher tשlחנו, Na'asa, it's not a complete raya, because maybe the reason why they were accepting what Yehושע said, and they said they're going to listen to everything that Yehושע said, is because he had a din of a melech. Like the Rambam writes in Halachas Malachim, Paragum Halacha Ches. It's good to get familiar with this Rambam, because we're going to be getting back to it and spending a lot of time discussing it, Mir Hashem, in Pasuk Yud Ches. So the Rambam learns from these psukim here in Sefer Yehושע that somebody who's married b'malchus is chayav misa. Although that's true, but we still don't know that Klal Yisrael believed in him as a navi, meaning mitad b'malchus shabai, mitad the din of a melech. They were forced to listen to him in a sense. Ein melech b'layam. We always say b'shem v'gra, the difference between a melech and a moshel. A moshel rules by force. A melech is accepted by his people. But once you accept, as we saw by the Tanai b'nei Gad b'nei Reuven, once you accept, then you're meshuvah all the way. So we hear maybe the reason why they accepted the rulership, the leadership of Yehושע, because he had a din of a melech, and not necessarily because he had a din of a navi. We still don't see from here that Klal Yisrael believed in him. The Klal Yisrael as a whole, in its entirety, believed in him midin navi. Aval mehad kosov kan vayishmu elov b'nei Yisrael kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe nuchal lahavi mekor nemel ledever Rambam. But he says that from here, that the pasuk says that b'nei Yisrael listened to him like kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe, just like Hashem commanded Moshe. So here it's a makar to what the Rambam says. Because if you look at the Ben Ezra over here, he says kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. What was the tzivui that Hashem commanded Moshe over here? Sheyishmu al Yeshua, that they should listen to Yeshua. Aval b'emes, he says, we don't find beferish in the pasuk that Hashem commanded Moshe to tell Klal Yisrael that they should accept everything Yeshua says. Even though in the parish it says in Na'sa mehoid chalav l'man yishmu b'nei Yisrael, even though the pasuk says v'nasat mehoid chalav that Moshe, we mentioned this pasuk many times already, that Moshe Rabbeinu should give from his kedusha, from his ruach hakodesh, from his nevuah over to Yeshua ben Nun. And why is that? L'man yishmu b'nei Yisrael, so that b'nei Yisrael should listen and to adhere to the rules and to the regulations that Yeshua ben Nun is going to place on them. So we already explained that apitruta shel mikra, the concept is shetasa kol zeis le'einayim kedei sheyedu Yisrael she'atam hamana osay. The concept isn't so much that we're mechuyev to listen to him, meaning from the pasuk of Na'sa mehoid chalav. The pasuk of Na'sa mehoid chalav l'man yishmu b'nei Yisrael is coming to teach us apitruta shel mikra, that you should do all these things of giving over the smicha and giving over the kedusha and the ruach hakodesh to Yeshua ben Nun, kedei sheyedu Yisrael she'atam hamana osay, that Klal Yisrael should know that you're appointing him. Now, does that mean that we're appointing him for what? To be the Novi, to be the Melech, to be the Rosh Sanhedrin, to be the Manik, to be a Shofet? What does it mean to be a Shofet? What does it mean to be a Manik? A Melech, we know. There's Shteter Halachis, there's Gemaras, there's Psukim, there's Gemaras, there's Rambams. And Navi, also, we have Psukim, we have Gemaras, we have Rambams. But when it comes to the realm of being a Shofet, it gets a little more vague. I mean, the Gemara does talk about it, but I'll go put him from over here what the Anhaga of Na'sa mehoid chalav of what Moshe Rabbeinu is giving over to Yeshua ben Nun, L'fnei kol b'nei Yisrael, l'man yishmu b'nei Yisrael, is just that Klal Yisrael should know that Yeshua ben Nun is not coming. He's not an egin mensch. He didn't wake up one day and say, "Tera Baisai, I'm the new leader of Klal Yisrael." But the pshat is that what Yeshua ben Nun is doing, he's doing it al pi das Rabbi al pi Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, "Hanera muchach v'zeh sheRambam mefarish as a pasuk el b'parsha shoftim, Navi mikirbecha me'achecha kamayni yakum l'cha Hashem lekecha elov tishmun." The pasuk says in Parsha Shoftim, "Navi mikirbecha me'achecha kamayni yakum l'cha Hashem lekecha elov tishmun," that a Navi is going to get up from amongst Klal Yisrael, me'achecha kamayni, like me, that Hashem is going to appoint, and you should listen to him. The Ibn Ezra says over there that that's referring to Yeshua. So what does this mean? This means that Hashem is telling Moshe that he's going to appoint Yeshua as a Navi, and that's who Klal Yisrael is going to be mechuyev to listen to. The same way they listen to Moshe, they have to listen to you. So if that's true, so then we see that the tzivui of Hashem Yisbarach to listen to Yeshua b'teras Navi is like mafurish in the pasuk, and that's what the pasuk, our pasuk is saying, Kol asher tzivisanu na'sa. And this, that Klal Yisrael listened, Yishmu b'nei Yisrael kasher tziv Hashem es Moshe, of the pasuk of Elov Tishmun. Elov Tishmun is teaching us that the concept of, meaning we're going to pull it to make it mean that the Yishmu b'nei Yisrael kasher tziv Hashem es Moshe, that now they're mechuyev to listen to what Yeshua will tell them, and Yeshua will be the new leader of Klal Yisrael in the full capacity of Moshe Rabbeinu. But if you look in the Sforno says something very interesting. Sforno says that what does it mean kasher tziv Hashem as Moshe? Because he appointed Yeshua kasher tziv Hashem as Moshe, like Hashem told Moshe. Meaning, what does the pasuk say? Yeshua ben Nun malei ruach chachma ki samach Moshe selav alav vayishmu elav b'nei Yisrael vayasu, and they did kasher tziv Hashem as Moshe. What was the tzivui over here exactly? Abazak this Sforno azay. Ka'amrei v'shal loy b'mishpat ha'urim lefnei Hashem al piv yetzuv al piv yavayu hu v'chal b'nei Yisrael ita v'chal ha'eda. Dahainu, that they're going to have to listen to him as the al piv yetzuv al piv yavayu Hu v'chol b'nei Yisrael, itay b'chol ha'eda. Everyone's going to be mechuyev to listen to everything that he says. And that's why he's telling to the pasuk in Parshas Pinchas that over there it said that Hashem was mitzaveh Moshe, that Yeshua should be the one that's going to be manig Klal Yisrael after him. Aber be'emes, if you look in the pasuk, you'll see that by the Urim v'Tumim, it's going on Elazar. It's not necessarily talking about Yeshua. That the same way Klal Yisrael is mechuyev to listen to Elazar HaKohen enter the Urim v'Tumim, so too they're mechuyev to listen to the same way that Klal Yisrael is mechuyev to listen to Elazar and the Urim v'Tumim, so too Yeshua is also mechuyev to listen to them. So Dr. Yankiv, that there's no real raya from the pasuk this that the Swan is telling to the Indian that he has to listen to the Urim v'Tumim, that's not necessarily referring to Yeshua. It could be that it's referring to Elazar. So there's no raya from here, Dr. Yankiv, that there was a tzivah from Hashem to listen to Yeshua. Now, the Rambam writes in the Pirush HaMishnayos, the beginning of Sanhedrin, that the smichas zekanim, meaning this, that there's a smicha, the real smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu, who minoi hadayonim, is the appointing of the judges. And there's a remes to this from the pasuk, that he gave him smicha and he commanded him. Now, if you pay attention to the context of what that pasuk is, Rabbi Yankiv says like this. This pasuk is really referring to the appointing of Yeshua as a melech or a manik. So there's no real meaning, because what the context that the Rambam is talking about is the smichas kenim, that he's going to be appointed as a dayanim. And he says it's only a remez. It doesn't say like shenemar. It says the remez al zeh shenemar. There's a remez to it from what it says in the pasuk. But be'etzem it's talking about giving smicha for dinei mamonos. Now a navi has to know dinei mamonos, but you don't appoint a navi for dinei mamonos. Now to say that our pasuk is talking about nevuah, when it says that Yeshua ben Nun was molei ruach chachma, that means nevuah. Kisamach Moshe es yadav alav, that the koyach of nevuah of Yeshua came al yedei the smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. So when the Rambam is telling us that what's the smicha that Yeshua had, like he says, shenemar v'yismach es yadav alav v'yitzavei, what's that talking about? Kshebaha Rambam lo hidia lanu mahi hasmicha nevea mizeh shesamach Moshe es Yeshua. The smicha that he was giving him was now it's very interesting, because although the context of it is referring to dinei mamonos, l'chayra, if the zach is like this, and this we're going to get back to this later on also in Mitzvah Shem and Pasuk Yudches, but if the pshat is like this, what exactly is Moshe Rabbeinu appointing Yeshua for in these psukim? So there's different psukim, each one may be referring to something else. The Briskirov in Parshas Vayelech talks that there's a chiluk between being appointed as the Reish Sanhedrin and being appointed at Din of a Melech. I think there's three things that we have that we're dealing with over here, and the Mefarshim over here grapple with this idea also, because does Yeshua have a Din of a Melech? Yeah. Does he have a Din of a Navi? Yeah. Does he have a Din of a Reish Sanhedrin? Yeah. Does he have a Din of a Dayan? That's what the Rambam says, Reish Sanhedrin Dayan. That's one thing. Did he have a Din of a Shofet? That's what the Mitzvah says. So then it's very hard to know, unless the pasuk tells us the Farish what it was. Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu was giving over the nevuah to Yeshua ben Nun. Moshe Rabbeinu was giving over the Mesiras HaTorah to Yeshua ben Nun. That's what we said, the Brisker Rav in Parshas B'Shalach, that we said that already. That's the Mesiras HaTorah. We're going to see that the Ramosha Grada learns that Yeshua was Zeicher to Malchus, he was Zeicher to the Malchus only because he was Moshe Rabbeinu's biggest Talmud. The Hainu, that from the Koyach of the Mesiras HaTorah turned them into a Melech. However that works halachically, and the technicalities of it we'll have to discuss then. But Al Kapanim, this is what and Rabbi Yankiv ends off and says, "When Ken Koyach Hasmicha Lodun Dinei Mamonos, Hu Bekoyach HaMesirim in Moshe Rabbeinu, VaHarehi Kesmicha Denavuah." Because Be'etzim is very vague. It's very vague to say that the whole. It's almost madna to say that the whole concept of Yeshua being appointed as getting smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu is that he could pass in Dinei Mamonos. A guy goes to medical school, he doesn't walk out with a master's. The guy who goes to medical school, he becomes a MD. You know, let's even say it's a higher level than a PhD. You know, just for argument's sake, right? You don't go to medical school and walk out with a master's. Yeshua ben Nun is the manig after Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the mamshech. He's the mamshech of Nevuah. He's the mamshech of the Reisha Sanhedrin. He's the mamshech of the Melech. He's the mamshech of the Messiah Torah. It's all of that. L'chara, we have to say that this pasuk that says that the Moshe Rabbeinu gave him smicha, it's the Kayach HaMesorah mi Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's kail everything, and that's l'chara what we have to say. Now, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says Moshe kibul Torah misina Mesorah li Yeshua. Now, in the world of the Brisker Rav that we spoke, that the pshat is that the leadership of Yeshua, in a sense, was very much the hamshacha and the continuation of the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was makabel the Torah from Har Sinai and gave it over. See, he gave it over to Yeshua, and Yeshua gives it over, is being mamshech the Torah to Klal Yisrael. And as we spoke, that's why it was a specific time on Yeshua when the halachas were forgotten by Me'evlish on Moshe, that they wanted to kill him. Why did they want to kill him? It's not time they wanted to kill him because he forgot. I mean, there is, you know, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says that a person who's shechech tavarech mishnasai is chayav misa. But why do they want to kill him for? But the pshat is that he is the Meiser HaTorah. He's the one that gives over the Torah. So if he doesn't have the halachas, he doesn't have it arois, he gets in big trouble for that. But in order for that to play out properly, Yeshua needs to be accepted by all of Klal Yisrael, the same way Moshe Rabbeinu was the undisputed leader of Klal Yisrael. So when the pasuk says, "Via'nu es Yeshua laamar kol asher tzivisonu na'asa kechol asher shomanu al Moshe kein nishmai lecha," that's exactly what's happening over here. Now, this concept, this is Rav Hutner writes this, or I don't know if Rav Hutner wrote it, but the people wrote it. That that Klal Yisrael was mekabel the divrei hanavim was all this that we're mechuyev to listen to Nevi'im is nichlal in the Kabbalah of Moshe Rabbeinu, and each Navi didn't have. I mean, we don't ask a question. We don't wake up one day and we ask a question. Mehecha Tesi that we have to listen to Hoshea. Hoshea is a Navi, but Mehecha Tesi to listen to him. But the pshat is that there was a Messiah. And sort of like we spoke, sort of like what Rabbi Yankov was trying to be mechich in the Rambam, that when one Navi says edus about another Navi, or on another person that he's a proper Navi, then you don't have to be worried about him anymore, and he doesn't need to prove with the Oyser and Moifis that he's a Navi, right? All the Navi were nichlal in the Kabbalah of Moshe Rabbeinu, and this that Klal Yisrael was makabel everything from Moshe Rabbeinu, and they didn't need a specific Kabbalah for themselves. Masha Ein Kain. The other kinds of leaders of Klal Yisrael, we know that each melech needed to be appointed separately. If there was a machlekes, they even needed a mashiach, a specific mashiach. But this Rabbeinu Yainu Shar Tshuva Shar Gimel is Dalet. He writes in Chayavnu min HaTorah, we're obligated by the Torah lekabel takonos hanaviyim, to accept all the takonos of the Nevi'im. Shenemar leisosur. From the pasuk of leisosur, we're mechuyev to listen to the takonos of the Nevi'im. V'gam harnu min HaTorah, we're also warned by the Torah, and we're also obligated to listen and to be mekabel on ourselves, to do everything that they commanded us. And if you medayik in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos over there, it doesn't say that there was a Messiah to the Nevi'im. It says, Navi mi kirbacha me'achecha kamayni. Kamayni means like the Kabbalah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Kishem that Klal Yisrael was makabel Moshe Rabbeinu without any sveikis, without any pikpukim, without any doubt. So too they were makabel on themselves the nevuah of the real Nevi'im, the same way. And that's Moshe Kibul Torah Misin Emsar Yeshua. Yeshua is Canaan. Canaan means Elazar, Ein Pinchas, and the Shaftim. It was Canaan LaNevi'im. Nevi'im Misaru La Anshe Knesses HaGdolah. A Anshe Knesses HaGdolah, which is Sanhedrin, that's a totally different halacha than, meaning the chiyuv to listen to Sanhedrin is different than the chiyuv to listen to the Navi. So Moshe Kibul Torah Misina. There there was a heavenly revelation to Gans Klal Yisrael that the Mechuyev and they just were makabel from Moshe Rabbeinu. The whole Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu. Masar li Yeshua, that's the Anhaga, that's the leadership of Yeshua and the Masaris HaTorah. But now when it says Kenim LaNeviim and Neviim Misarua Lanche Knesset Hagdolah, the reason why it says Misarua is because there's a shift. There's a shift in the Mahalach. There's a shift in the Mahalach of the Masara that's going from Yeshua ben Nun until the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Because the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah is no longer dealing with Neviim as much as they're dealing with the Sanhedrin, which needs a different type of Kabbalah from Klal Yisrael, meaning the accepting of it. That's the Chayra Pshat over here. Now it's kedai to see there's a relatively short Maimer in Pachad Yitzchak, Sukkos Maimer Ches, where he discusses this idea also. It's similar. It's sort of similar to what Rabbi Yankov says, and it goes on that same Rambam. So it's kedai to see. He starts off with a Taisus in Yavamas, talking about the. Oh, so let's back it up a little bit. We spoke in the Akdama to say for Yeshua that if Klal Yisrael wouldn't have been chayte, they would have gotten just Chamish Chumshei Torah and say for Yeshua. The big question is, we know the Gemara says that Ein Navi Rasha L'Chadash Davar, we have Taryag mitzvahs, and we're not allowed to be Moisef, and the Nevi'im are not Moisef mitzvahs onto Ein Navi Rasha L'Chadash Davar. A Navi is not allowed to invent or create new mitzvahs. Even if he has a very nice imagination, we don't listen to that. In Perek Hey in Yeshua, there's a story where Klal Yisrael did Mila to be able to eat the Korban Pesach after they came into Eretz Yisrael. Remember, they crossed the Yarden on Yud Nisan, and then it was right before Pesach. So Taisus in Yevamos and Ayin Aleph Amud Beis says, "V'im Toimar im lo nitna priya ad Yeshua hechi germina minei." If the mitzvah of priya, so we know in Mila, in the mitzvah of Mila, there's Mila and priya. Mila is the main part of the orla, and priya is a small, thinner skin that needs to be removed as well. So Meloi Nitna Priya Ad Yeshua, if the mitzvah of Priya wasn't given to Klal Yisrael until the days of Yeshua ben Nun, Heichi Gamrina Mina. How can we learn from there? Haksiv Elah HaMitzvahs. The pasuk says Elah HaMitzvahs, and the Gemara says from there, She'en Navi Racha L'Chadash Davar. That a Navi is not allowed to be Mechadash anything. So how could Yeshua have this new mitzvah of Priya? And for Taisus Yesh Leimar, the Halach L'Moshe Misinai, that really the mitzvah of Priya is Halach L'Moshe Misinai, Yeshua As V'chei HaKrav, and Yeshua found the pasuk to be semichanan. The Pesachim bring from the Bahag that the Yolav Lola Priya b'Shabbos Mikra de Yeshua the Kosav Shom Shenis Shehukash L'Mila. It's a Shenis, that's a Hekesh L'Mila. And if you look at it simply, it looks like it's a kind of a limud in the Gemara, and it's a kind of a Alfusa. And it's possible that the Gemara that based on the Gemara in Tmura Daf Tezayin that says Shleishes Halachim Halachas Nishtaku B'Mei Avlish Al Moshe, that there were 3,000 halachas that were forgotten in the days of mourning of Moshe Rabbeinu. Amalei Yeshua Sha'al. They said to Yeshua, go ask for it. Go ask for Akash Baruch Hu for the halachas. Amalei Lebe Shemayim. He says we don't ask Shemayim for halachas. Amalei L'Shmuel Sha'al. So they said to Shmuel to ask. From this point on, a Navi is not allowed to be Mechadash anything. There's a kash over here. The Laman is Chalko Atruvis. Why is Yeshua answering the question of ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help you with these halachas that were forgotten by Abel Shamaycha? Yeshua answers Leba Shamayim. Shmuel says, but why doesn't Yeshua give that answer? I mean, obviously Yeshua is trying to avoid this answer, so what's Pshat? You have to come with the proper mindset. It's before in a lot of places in the Rambam, the Torah is perfect. And nobody is allowed to make any changes, no one's allowed to add anything, no one's allowed to take anything out, not to add an ice, not to subtract an ice from the Torah. When a Navi is coming to create a new mitzvah, meaning the perfection of the Torah includes within it the perfection of the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. And if the pshat is that the Torah is not perfect, and this Navi is coming along to be mechadish something in the Torah, or the Navi is coming to be megareya something from something where they train in the Torah. So then, nichlal on that is that he's going to be machish and above Moshe Rabbeinu, which is kind of the whole Torah. And Rav Hutner goes weiter and he says, in the Tzaref Oidel Zed Dvar Shal Rambam and Perik Shminim Yisodei Torah. We could add to this also what the Rambam writes in the 8th parak of Hilchos Yisodei Torah, Ki Iker Shal Nitzchis Torah, that the Iker of the continuity and the Nitzchis Torah is She'en Hanavi Yochel Lahakish and V'aseh Shal Moshe, that a Navi is not allowed to contradict or question or to doubt the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. And this concept is built on the Yesod that there's a great difference between the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu and the other Nevi'im. And this is the Lashon of Rambam. The Rambam says like this: Moshe Rabbeinu lehaminu ba'Yisrael b'nei ha'osei she'asa. Moshe Rabbeinu, Klal Yisrael didn't trust in him because of the great miracles that he did. But ma'haminu b'y. So for what reason did they believe in him? The Ma'amad Har Sinai. Because of the Ma'amad Har Sinai, lefikach. Meaning the reason why we believe in Moshe Rabbeinu is because of Ma'amad Har Sinai. Lefikach, therefore, im Omad Navi. If a Navi gets up, ubikesh lahakish v'aseh shal Moshe, and he decides to contradict or to go against anything from the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, meaning anything within the context of the Torah, ain't shaymin like we don't listen to him. Why? Lefisha Nevuas Moshe eina al pi ha'osos. Because the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu is not muchrach, is not proven from the osos. Kidei shenarech osos zeh la'osos zeh. Because the reason why we believe in Moshe Rabbeinu is because of what Har Sinai taught us, not because he needs to prove it from any kind of osius, any kind of oiser moifis. So already the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu is different. So when a person is being machish, when a Navi decides to be mechadesh something, it's not just that he's being pogim in the veracity of the Torah, but it's also a pagam in the emunah, in the shleimus of the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mehashta avanan aminema, and from this we can also say that Mavur b'Rambam the Navi sheheir al chaverei en halot tzarich l'oisel l'mayvis kedei lahachzik l'Navi. Sagt Rishiva from this Rambam, it's Mavur that meaning this that the Rambam writes that a Navi that's made on his al chaverei, that's made on another Navi, that he doesn't, so then he doesn't need another oiser in my face to be considered a Navi. Now, the Navi who's saying the Eidos, where does his Nevuah come from? Meaning, the first Navi. Navi A is saying Eidos and Navi B. So good. So we're going to trust, we're going to have a good Navi B because we have a Nevuah from Navi A. The question is, where did Navi A come from? Meaning, if Navi A is only valid and legitimate because he made an Oyser or Mayface, so then Navi B should also be mechuyev to be muzak as a Navi, al pi the concept of Oyser Mayface. But we find an exception to the rule about this. Who be Yeshua? By Yeshua ben Nun. We don't find anywhere that Yeshua gave an ois or a moifes. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Yisodei Torah that the existence of the legitimate what legitimizes the nevuah of Yeshua is because that's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Al pi edusah shel Moshe. Because of the testimony of Moshe Rabbeinu. When we came into Nevuah shel Moshe be'einenu re'inu, and being that we believe everything, b'emunah shleima, because be'einenu re'inu, what we saw by Moshe Rabbeinu, harei memela gam Nevuah shel Yeshua be'einenu re'inu. So then there's no makom to be mevakvek, to cast doubt on anything that we have by Yeshua ben Nun. Shekein uvda zud the Nevuah Yeshua Nevuah shel Moshe hi. The whole concept, the whole idea of Yeshua having Nevuah is all gevoit, built on the fact that we had a Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. This is how we're going to answer the kasha that we asked on the Gemara in Tamura. Why did he say loy b'shamayim here? Yeshua wasn't going to give the answer of Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash. Why? Mishum shal Navi Kazeh she'oivedes nevuasi hi nevuas Moshe Mamish le'namer halacha zut Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash. Because when it comes to a Navi that his nevuah is gebayt on the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, then you can't say that he's bound to the halacha of Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash. Moshe Rabbeinu, whatever he did, was gebayt on the Torah. So his mitzvahs, you're mechuyev to listen to because that's what the Torah says. Yeshua, you have to listen to because his mitzvahs, what he says, that's what the Torah says. But to say that the concept is because Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash, the concept of Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash starts after the nevuah that follows after Yeshua ben Nun. Because Yeshua ben Nun's nevuah is tied directly connected to the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, which implies it's not that Moshe Rabbeinu could have been mechadish whatever he wanted. Obviously not. You know, it's reminding me of a vart where Moshe writes in the Bris Moshe that be'etzem malachim have bechira. No, we're very used to hearing that malachim don't have bechira. Where Moshe writes that malachim be'etzem have bechira, it's a sheet of a lot of other achronim, not for now. But the concept is where Moshe writes at the beginning of Bereshis in Darash Moshe, that the idea is that they see with such a clarity, and that there's no makom for any sveikas. So there's no makom for anything to go wrong. Yeah, we spoke about, you know, there's a shmuz what happened with the malachim, with Uzzah and Azael and those things, and the tikkun that happened with light. But that's not for now. But upon him, Moshe Rabbeinu was the same idea. There's no the Torah is so perfect by him. There's no makom to be mechadish anything. So if that's the concept of how we have to view the Torah, then that's how the Torah is viewed in the eyes of Moshe Rabbeinu. So then that's how the Torah has to be viewed through the lenses of Yeshua ben Nun as well. So the acceptance of Klal Yisrael of Yeshua ben Nun is based on that. So there's no makom for Yeshua to say Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash because that's not me. Well, the Hachi Yitachim the Bo Bat Torah Psukim and V'Asa Shel Yeshua. And he says weiter that that's why it makes sense to say that there are psukim in the Torah, on the Chumash itself, that were written by Yeshua ben Nun. Like Gemara says in Bava Basra Daf Tezvav. And this that the Bahag learns the Dinei Priya from the psukim that are said by Yeshua. Meaning, because it's nichlal in the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Meaning, in a sense, this that the Gemara says, Amalei Lechot Yisrael Nitnu Lahem Ella, the Chamish Chumshei Torah and Sefer Yeshua is because Yeshua is a chelik of the Chumash, in a sense that Yeshua is the one that bridges the Dar the Midbar to the Dar Bayaretz. He's that bridge that we spoke about. And Mamela, you could learn that, meaning it's not a kasha to have a limud from something that Yeshua did, because he doesn't have the concept of Ein Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash. He's not going to mechadish anything because he sees the Torah with such a clarity. But Maimer HaMuzgar, parenthetically, there's a shmuz later on that we're going to get to in Pasuk Yud Ches also, Bez Hashem Bli Neder, that Yeshua ben, from the Ramah Mipanu, that Yeshua ben Nun was talking not allowed to be mechadish anything, and he wasn't allowed to change anything. Now, according to this, it stems very nicely, because all the other Nevi'im you could say in an Hanavi Rasha L'Chadash davar. By Yeshua being that we're not saying that because he has a different din, because his Nevuah is a hemshech of the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So then, when he wants to be, if he wants to be mechadish something, so then it's a whole different program. B'yisayid advarim hu dechol anyanim and ayidim lenim and nevuah shel Yeshua klulim him b'haftacha shenemer loy l'Moshe v'gam b'chay yaminu loylam. This Yisayid, that everything that Yeshua has comes from Moshe Rabbeinu b'frat in the Nyan Nevuah. It's because there was a Havtacha that was given to Moshe v'gam b'chay yaminu loylam. So you'll say, what do you mean? That was said specifically to Moshe Rabbeinu. But if the pshat is that everything that applied by Moshe Rabbeinu applies to Yeshua ben Nun as well, so then the concept of v'gam b'chay yaminu loylam goes on Yeshua ben Nun also. And you have to put it together with what the Gemara says in the Dorim, that if the Klal Yisrael wanted to mechote, they wouldn't have been given the Sefer Torah, the Chamishim Shetar and Sefer Yishua B'Vad. And we mentioned a while back from the Bnei Yissaschar and Derech Secha that even if we'll say that by the Nevuah of Yeshua he was able to be mechadish things, he can't really go and change anything from what was mentioned earlier. I have a shaila. I don't know. It's Kedai to look into, and hopefully we'll get to it. Somewhere along the way. But we know that Yeshua made takanas. Right? There were 10. The Gemara Bava Kama lists 10 takanas that Yeshua ben made today that the land in Eretz Yisrael should be more settled. The pashtus, if you go through the sugya in Bava Kama, it sounds like that these are takanas. Anar Rebbe Mezakai made takanas. Yeshua ben made takanas, and really that's how the Gemara sets it up, right? But if the pshat is that the starkheit of the takanas of Yeshua, meaning that the smincha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave Yeshua in Dinei Mamonos means that it's not just for Dinei Mamonos, but it's for everything else also. It's for Nevuah, it's for the Malchus, it's for the Anhoga, it's for the Ruach HaKodesh, it's for all those things. So then the starkheit of it holds very strong, unless we know that the takana was taka only in Mamonos the Gezach. The Pashas Al Pi Seiden Shel Dvarim, Al Pi Amkas of it, L'chera, it is shaykh to that world of Yeshua, the same way that the takanas of Moshe Rabbeinu are probably shaykh to the world of Moshe Rabbeinu. Which is taka mokamiyun, which is kedai to see. Okay, one more thing in this pasuk before we go weiter. Pasuk ends off, Chol. And every mission that you'll send us on, we will go to. It doesn't say, the pasuk doesn't say, Lo Omar, the pasuk doesn't say any specific place. It says, we'll do any mission that you send us on, even if it's not a place. So, I was thinking that, the beginning of the next parak, in Navi, Yeshua sends Miraglim. He sends Pinchas and Kalev, the Medrash says. So, he sent them to scout at Yericho to see what's going on over there. Now it says that they came to be medaik. The Radak already is medaik this in the Pesukim, but I believe it comes from the Medrash that at one point Pinchas became invisible. So there was only one person. It would be a lot easier to deal with if they would get caught. So he's not typhus any makom, so that's why he doesn't have to. He sent them on a shlichus, but there was no makom because he wasn't typhus makom. The Bnei Yissaschar in Derech Secha says like this: that even if there's going to be chisaron in the Malcolm, we're going to do it anyways. Meaning, if you're going to send us to someplace else, that even if we think that LP didn't, let's say, we feel that it's wrong, and min hadin we shouldn't listen. Afal Pikain, we're going to listen to you. Even if we think that you're sending us somewhere against halacha, we're going to go anyways. Oh, but the problem is like this. Because Gemara says in Sanhedrin Daf Mem Tes, the pasuk says later, Kol isha sheyamer es picha, v'leishum es tvarecha, v'chol asher tzitavenu yumaz. Anybody that's going to rebel against what you said, and anybody that will not listen to you or to any of your commands will be killed. So Zakli Gemara, Yochel afilu divrei Torah. You would think that even if he says to be ever in divrei Torah, you have to listen to him, and you would be mechuyev misa al stin murd b'malchus v'shteit in Rambam. Talmud lemer rak chazak v'emas. Rak chazak v'emas meaning in divrei Torah. The hainu that if the melech tells you to go kineged divrei Torah, you're not mechuyev to listen. Like the Gemara said in Kedushin Daf Mem Gimel in the Sugi Ben Shlichus V'Aravera, divrei Rabbi, divrei Talmud, divrei Mishemin. If the Rebbe tells you something and the Talmud tells you something, who do you listen to? The Melech is also mechuyev to listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to be machni himself to the Torah. And in a sense, more than everybody else, right? But Karabah Kali Mechayav is because he has a lot more pressure and a lot more reason why he has to take a listen. And he says that there's a chiddush over here. Why? Because it's one thing if, Klal Yisrael is all going together and we're with you in the same place. So then how do we have to listen to you? We're going to listen to you. It's not even a question. But even if you send us away from you, someplace else, and we're in the Vaitins, like Hashem says, Kihu Yavar Lefonai. If you go in front of Klal Yisrael, we spoke to that way back in the beginning, that if you lead Klal Yisrael, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of you. And if not, someone say, so if you're not, so if Yeshua ben is not leading Klal Yisrael, so then we're not mechuyev to listen. So then if we're not mechuyev to listen, then we don't have the avtachas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is maftiach, right? So then, if that's the case, it's dangerous, so we shouldn't listen. The Afal Pikain, we're going to listen to you, and we're going to go mimakum lamakum, even if it's against that concept of hu yavu lefanecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is maftiach that if Yeshua is going to go in front of them, you're going to be matzliach. So if he sends you to other places which are far out, so then he's not going to be lifneya. But being that this is his tzivoy, and like the Yerushalmi says, that you should envision the Baal HaShmuel standing in front of him, so then you're able to go mimakim lamakim. Now, what's very interesting is that, the shlichus that Yeshua is sending Klal Yisrael on could be very dangerous missions. If the Melech Yericho is looking to kill Pinchas and Kalev, he would have done that. And there were nisim that happened over there that they were able to escape. But they weren't always zeichet to have such great things happen to them, as we're going to see in Perek Zayin with the Milchama and Ai. So the reason why the pasuk doesn't use the word makom over here, is because even if there's going to be a chisaron, meaning even if something bad is going to happen, like it happened in Milchemas Ai, in kol zeh, we're still going to listen to you. Because the only thing that we have to do here is to listen to what Yeshua says. And even though they knew that something bad might happen to them, right? They went to the Milchemas Ai. Like we know from the Gemara Bava Basra, Kaf Aleph Amar Beis says that Yor ben Menashe was killed over there. So, meaning that that was like the first tragedy that happened in the wars that they were fighting. This was the second Milchama that they had. But you see from the Psukim that they were Mekayim what they said. And they were Mekayim, this like it says in Chazal, that Afilu im Yarmer Lechal Smel Shehu Yamin Bal Yamin Shehu Smel Lechal Shevet Shav Yamecha. They didn't question anything that Yeshua said. They went and they did. That's what they said. Because they knew that the Iker Hatzlacha that they're going to have with all these Mulchamas is if Yeshua is going to be with them. The only way Yeshua is going to be with them if they're going to be listening to him. Now, if they thought differently, they still listen to them. And that's a Chiddush al Gabe Chiddush. Why? Because the Gemara says that they said Pnei Yeshua, Pnei Moshe is Pnei Chama, Pnei Yeshua is Pnei Levana. Nice, it's not the same energy. It's the same diamond. Afal Pikin, this is the Kabbalah, that they were Makabal on themselves. Meaning that they were willing to put their lives on the line, even if they felt that he was wrong, but they said, and they have to listen to him. Now, another teretz that we could say to the question of the Na'asa as to why the pasuk doesn't say anything about a makom is because there's maybe these makaimis weren't invented yet. What do I mean by that? The Gemara says that different stories, but Italia Shal Yavan was created when Gabriel was Noach's Kana Bayam, and that created Italia Shal Yavan. It's Yitachan that there were places in Zachin, in Eretz Yisrael, that were created, at a later point in time. And right now, could be he was sending them there, but it wasn't a place yet. What do we mean by that? Because the Gemara says in Brachos on Daf Lamed Aleph, Kol Eretz shegozer ala Adam Rishon liyishuv nisyashva. Any area in the world that Adam Rishon was gozer on it, that it should become a populated place, became a populated place. V'chol Eretz sheloi gozer ala Adam Rishon liyishuv lo nisyashva. And any area in the world that he wasn't kosher that it should become a yeshiv, that it should become a settled place where people should live, didn't get settled. It may explain why there's a lot of places that aren't populated and why different places don't take off. And the Ritter says over there that he lived for many years, that he should be able to walk, and or better yet, like the Medrash says that Mitchila before the Chet Avodah Marishan, he was he was Miseifa Olam Ba'at Seifa, and like the pasuk says, that he filled up the ganze Welt, and which means that the entire Bria was nichlal in him, befrat Eretz Yisrael. But it says by the Meraglim that they also went to L'Arkol L'Rachva Shel Eretz Yisrael. Like how the Mauritians spent that whole time walking around the world to make it to be miyashiv it. So that's really what the job of the Meraglim was when they went to Eretz Yisrael. The Chatchila was to walk L'Arkol L'Rachva Shel Eretz Yisrael to make it a makom, of Eretz Yisrael of Kedusha. And Yeshua ben Nun, which today, as we're speaking now, in the Psukim, is the one that's being machnis everyone into Eretz Yisrael. He went L'Arkol L'Rachva Shel Haaretz, which is Abrameis Paras, just like Adam Rishon did, to make it more miyoshev. The hainu that it could be that they didn't have a din of a makom before, right? But the concept is that there's nothing like Chaim Makom Al Yeshveha, and Mir Hashem, all of Klal Yisrael should be zeicha to be nena from the Chaim Makom Al Yeshveha, all of Klal Yisrael sitting together in Eretz Yisrael Tizamin Ad Kan.